Some classes are more equal than others, and we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna do a class tier list. Welcome to Pack Tactics, where everyone has advantage. Before I start, there's two important things about my rankings. 1. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is a very easy game, 95% of the time. You can pick the worst class in the game and still survive through the story, and you'll have a ton of fun doing it. What I'm saying is, all classes are viable. This tier list is about optimization, so if I rank something in F tier, please do not take that personal. Your class is still fun, it's still viable, but this is about optimization. Second, I'll be assuming characters that are built to near peak power, so multiclassing is factored into this analysis. I won't list all the builds that I consider specifically, but I will mention some strong aspects of those specific builds. Now the video begins! I'll be doing this alphabetically, by the way. This is just to spice it up more. Artificer is a solid C. They're okay. I think they're okay. They're a half-caster with access to strong magic items like repeatedly getting Pipes of Haunting or spell tattoos. Flash of Genius is similar to Paladin's Aura, but can't be used as often as Paladin. I still think that's really good. And finally, their spell storing item leads to an increased output potential. A well-optimized Artificer can be really good at control with Pipes of Haunting and Web. Yes, Web is on their list, and together with the pipes, you have a lot of resources for a half-caster. And by the way, I think those pipes are underrated. See that? It's DC 15. It's really good. And they've got fantastic survivability. The only really thing that's holding them back is that they're a half-caster, and their spell list isn't that great. I rank them a solid C. Next is Barbarian. It goes straight to F tier. A well-optimized Barbarian can absolutely dish a ton of damage, but their survivability is terrible. Rage does allow them to keep up somewhat, but this is a highly limited in number of uses. So while a Barbarian can be okay in low combat days, like 1 or 2 encounters, that's actually not impressive because literally any class in the game can be okay in low combat days. 1 or 2 encounter days is not much of a threat. The dungeon crawls are the threats. Having 8 deadly encounters back to back is a threat. Having no resources then going into a fight is a massive threat. But there are good news. You can make up for this flaw. There are builds that increase their damage to make up for their survivability. Or you can give up damage to increase survivability. Like that also exists. So while it is in F, it won't be at the bottom of F. Barbarian is the second weakest class in the game. That's my opinion, by the way. But Kobold! What class is at the bottom of F? You're just gonna have to wait and see, Gator. Now we're at Bard. B for Bard. They're a full caster with the option to pick up some great spells from other spell lists. But they do miss out on quite a lot of good spells, especially in lower tiers of the game. Overall, with the Eloquence or Lore Bard, you can still do quite a lot of things, but not as much as other full casters. This is why Bard is at B. I really do enjoy Bard. I don't think I've ever made a video about Bard. Well, that's not true. I made 1 D&D videos about Bard, but not normal Bard. Next, Cleric. Hallelujah! We're going to A. They're a full caster, even though some would argue otherwise. Yeah, I've actually heard people argue that this is not a full caster. Anyways, they get incredibly strong spells like Bless, Spirit Guardians, Planar Binding, and Conjure Celestial. And they get incredibly powerful subclasses, like Twilight Cleric is a perfect subclass. Not a single feature in Twilight Cleric is a bad feature. Every single one is perfect. I'm not joking. Next is Druid, another full caster with some great spells like Absorb Elements, Goodberry, Entangle, Spike Growth, Pass Without Trace, Conjure Animals, Sleet Storm, Planar Binding, Antipathy Sympathy, Shape Change, and much more. And then you've got Shepherd Druid, which is the best Druid subclass in the game. Not only does it make the party better, but it also makes the summons more powerful. Druid goes above Cleric, S tier. They've got the second best spell list in the entire game. And they have a ton of really good options in control, damage, and utility. Druid truly is the king of the jungle. We're gonna take a break from the full casters and we're gonna start a fight. E stands for fighter, by the way. Fighter goes into E. Fighter is just better than Barbarian. While it loses in melee output, its ranged capabilities are quite good, which is good for its damage done per damage taken ratio. Very important to factor in. It does have some great subclasses like Battle Master, Eldritch Knights, and Echo Knights, but sadly, none of that comes anywhere close to half casters or full casters. Now things are gonna get really interesting. If you're not fighting me right now, this is probably the number one thing that's gonna make you fight me. Monk! Monk goes in front of fighter, not above, in front of fighter. Now obviously, if you're playing monk normally, it goes straight to F. But this is optimization, and we're not playing monk normally. We're playing monk as a ranged monk, a gunk. And getting past without trace through Shadow Monk is a gigantic boon to your party. While Gloomstalker completely overshadows a gunk, there are still some incredibly strong strengths here. Having a short rest mechanic for pass without trace is actually massive. And if you take advantage of all of that speed and the technology you're using, like a hand crossbow or a gun, that's actually massive if you take damage done per damage taken ratio into account. You're basically fighting like a stealthy Mongolian, and at the same time you're boosting your party significantly with that pass without trace. Surprise is like super action surge. And it's for the whole party. It's so powerful. Link in the description where I talk more about the gunk. Anyways, we gotta move on. Now I can finally talk about the D tier. D tier is completely empty. There's no way I'm putting Artificer anywhere near Monk and Fighter. And I think this is the best way to show you how wide the gap really is. And one more reminder, everything is viable. This is about optimization. Now we're at Paladin. Smite is massively overrated. Check out my video about it down below. It put me on the map. It made me famous. But don't get me wrong, it's really good in the right circumstances. Their spellcasting is alright, but not incredible. Their biggest strength is their auras and channel divinities, but especially the auras. There is a problem though, although it's not really a big problem. But the power of the auras is heavily dependent on the party, because the stronger the party, the more effective they become. That's why ranking Paladin is really difficult for me. But anyways, I've decided to put them in B, behind Bard. But the usefulness of the Paladin can be higher than Bard, especially considering the Oath of the Watchers Paladin. With an insanely good party with really good spells, I think Watchers is the best Paladin in the game. It just makes all of these spellcasters just better. Having a bigger chance to go first as a full caster is insanely powerful. Similar with auras, we have Rangers with Pass Without Trace. I rate Rangers slightly higher than Paladin, but it's still in B tier. Especially with builds like Flagship Ranger from Tabletop Builds existing. What an insanely strong build. They've got good spells like Good Berry and Pass Without Trace, that's mostly what they're casting, and their offense is really good. Then of course we have Gloomstalker with really good defense and really good offense. I absolutely love well-built Rangers. They're great. They make everyone so much better. Next, Rogue. Rogue goes straight to F. Bad subclasses, bad class, Skill Monkey is a meme, and even their damage is a meme. Barbarian is at least useful to Nova down enemies without needing any help or anything. Rogue's damage is not nearly enough to do so, even with help from the party. Being quote-unquote resourceless does not make you stronger than those that do spend resources. Resourceless is just another meme. I made an entire video about it. Rogue does have Arcane Trickster, which is okay. But even with that, it does not make up for its poor quality. Rogue is the worst class in the game, and it looks like with 1 D&D coming out, it's gonna stay that way. But hey, at least people think it's fun to play. I guess it's got that going for it. And of course, you can totally beat the game with this without even realizing its problems. There's tons of people who think like Rogue is S tier. I think stuff like this is fascinating in the community. Everybody has different opinions. If we all agreed, you know, it would be a pretty boring community, huh? Now we've got 3 classes left, and all of them are full casters. Sorcerer. I think Sorcerer is a solid A. I think it's more powerful than Clerics if you consider the Clockwork Soul subclass, as it leads to them having a similar but weaker spell list to the Wizard. If Planar Binding can be used to its most extreme, then it's definitely weaker than Cleric. But if you're actually doing that, then I don't really think you're playing D&D anymore. You're playing a whole different game. If you want to understand what I mean by that, check out this video. Next, Warlocks. Warlocks are the supreme class of spamming high-level spells. They do it better than anybody else, given that they get enough short rests, of course. I've got a 2-part guide for Warlocks, which goes into a lot of depth for how to make Warlocks truly great. With that, I would put Warlock at the front of B tier. If you support your Warlock enough, they can literally nuke every single encounter in the Adventuring Day. I don't know why people don't do that. Imagine having 8 different fights that day and your Warlock opens up with Hypnotic Pattern or Hypnotic Static every single fight. That's obviously insanely good. Do not underestimate Warlocks. Here we go, last class, and it's the king of the game. Wizards. Wizards easily have the best spell list in the entire game. They can prepare a ton of spells, and they have the ability to ritual cast spells they don't even have prepared. That allows them to prepare even more spells that other classes can't do. They've also got some insanely strong subclasses, like Chronergy Magic Wizard is the best one in the entire game. And then we've got War Magic, which is also great. Level 14 Illusion Wizard literally gets the best feature in the entire game. Wizard literally gets everything. Every time I join an optimization table, everybody wants to play Wizard. And that includes me, by the way. Wizards are the best. Kobold, the company's called Wizards of the Coast for a reason. They love wizards. Exactly, Gator. This has been the case for every edition from what I know, at least. Anyways, end the video. Guys, I really hope I earned your subscription. Earned, by the way. If I didn't earn it, then of course, you know, don't subscribe. Then of course I have to earn it in a different way. But anyways, this is driving me nuts. Look how close I am. Oh my god, I'm freaking out about it. And it's soon the end of the year. So it's like, I want to meet my goal, I want to meet my goal. Listen, this would make a sweet Christmas present for me and Gator. So if you want to send us a Christmas present, all you have to do is subscribe, please. Santa Claus will come over with the silver play button. That would be awesome. Can you imagine Gator's reaction? I'll film it. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Next week is how to DM for optimizers. Bye-bye!